Wake up.
The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK 1230 AM.
Wake up, New Orleans. 3 minutes past the top of the hour. Yeah, it's the Good Morning Show. WBOK Equity Media. Dr. Ashanta Wyatt, OT. The early bird, the entire WBOK listening audience. Well, it's Super Bowl week. The Super Bowl week. The Philadelphia Chiefs done arrived. They're waiting on Taylor Swift. The Kansas City. The Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, the Swifties.
Yeah.
It's the Swifty Bowl.
Yeah, but you know what, though? it's crazy, right? So here we are preparing for the Super Bowl, but New Orleans popping anyway, man.
Yeah.
Man, shout out to King and Queen Mason, man. The Queen's
Yeah.
arrival. Yesterday, man, we had a grand time at the press conference and the welcome party.
Mm-hmm.
Man, Zulu Brothers, man, President James and Zulu Brothers and the Royal Court and the sisters who support, and the men and women who support the organization. I've really been paying attention to detail this year, right? And in the midst of everything that's going on, Doc, I think I needed that distraction to kind of watch them and their revelry and what they do, the work. And then Wilbur Thomas, man, and the welcome party, chair the welcome party for the Queen, you know. And I love how they have made every aspect of what they do, you know, because there was a time when they would just really honor the King. The Queen was there, but the Queen didn't get that level of, you know.
What kind of foolishness is that? Like, I'm so glad they changed that. Yeah, that's a what? Listen, it's a beautiful thing. You know?
Yeah. It really is, and it was really, 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 really good. And shout out to all of our Grammy winners.
Tank and the Bangers.
Malik Sanders, man.
Yeah, Malik Sanders.
Yeah, Pastor Sanders' his son. Two Grammys, one with Chris Brown and the other, I forgot the other name of the group that he worked with, but that's a homeboy, man.
Yeah. Listen, it's New Orleans.
Yeah, all we do is win.
If they actually knew the talent that is in the atmosphere here, that wouldn't shock them. I'm not shocked, but congratulations to the winners.
Yeah, you know, I don't know the Mississippi water and our water system water. It may not be what they say is the best, but some in it that make us the best.
No, it's in us. I mean, you can pluck us and put us anywhere. The outcome is going to be the same.
Anyway, I never forget when I went to, I was playing AU ball. I was somewhere, and there was a group of girls, and one of them said hello, and I said, "How you doing, baby?" And she says, "What?" I said, "Talk for me." You know how we do.
Say baby.
Hey, baby. Hey, baby, how y'all doing? And we don't sound like we from Mississippi, Alabama, or Texas. We sound like we from here, right here.
Right here.
Yeah. Right here.
The capital of the United States of America.
No, the capital of the Afro-Caribbean and diaspora
let's say of
America.
So I mean, here's the thing. I think it's no place. I mean, we use the word unique so cavalierly, but this is truly a unique place. There's a unique experience that is happening here. And I mean, there's a reason folk flock here by the dozens, the hundreds, the thousands, each and every year for each and every event. And so the Super Bowl won't be any different. It's folk who know this is the crown jewel. And if you want to have a good time, this is where you come. Now, what I do think is a little bit weird, we have the Super Bowl coming, but there's a conglomerate of Republicans who want the halftime show to look different.
17 to be exact.
17 to be exact. And I was listening to Steve Harvey on the way over here, and the character Sister Odell on there said, "How you going to talk about you don't want lewdness? The whole city lewd.
The whole state lewd.
That's the only place you can walk around with an open container. They don't care what's in it."
Let me say this. Let me say this. They're not like us.
They're not like us.
They're not like us.
And here's the thing, though. Like, we have to call it for what it is. Like we see in the media where there are all of these words that they're trying to make synonymous with black. And so, it was woke, then it was DEI. And now you have an issue with the halftime performance and talking about you don't want, there's children everywhere when y'all are making these laws to go against the children's humanity, but nobody's telling you anything. You kind of just running with the ball. It's just so many, it's the hypocrisy of it all. Like, come on now. Music is music, but you're actually putting legislation in place that doesn't care for children. So like, miss me with that,
Now, I want to see if you can key up the not so lewd version of They're Not Like Us. Because maybe we could help them be a realizer instead of real colonizer. I mean,
but I think that's what they don't want to hear, because if you listen to the message behind the message, like it's a story. And I mean, I don't think that you want to, actually hear it for what it is, because again, that one person is just a representation of the issue that he's talking about. Right?
Yeah.
So I mean, if you don't want to be called a colonizer on the world stage, I understand it. But they used to have people hanging and folks gathering with their children to watch it. Remember, they used to bring their children to see it. So there's nothing more lewd than that. So come on now. I understand, people want responsibility in the music and
I do too.
Demeaning women in the music. I agree with all of that, but let's not act like that's what this is about.
Yeah.
So that's my issue here.
Yeah, I want.
Yeah, we all do.
I would like to see more respect. Not disrespecting women. Like that old crazy person Charleston Wright talking about killing black people.
Charleston White.
In the music, but I had to make a public admission. Every now and then, when I'm by myself.
Oh, I listen to "Hit 'Em Up" by Tupac every single day in the car. And "Ghetto Children" by Juvenile.
How do you want it? How do you want it? Booyah Tribe,
Stop it.
NWA.
Yeah.
Old Wu-Tang Clan.
I mean, listen, I posted a quote from Tupac today.
Public Enemy?
Well, yesterday. Yeah, he said, I'd rather die like a man than live like a coward. There's a ghetto up in heaven, and it's ours, Black Power. Happy Black History Month on that note. Like, that's what he said. Well, so, I mean, I get it, but don't act like that's what this is about. You're trying to censor folk, and you're trying to control narratives and all of that. I mean, there's a lot of country music that talks about violent things. You know what I mean? So we're not going to act like that's what this is about. It's not about that. Mm-hmm. And so I'm tired of people allowing them to pretend that this is about wholesome family values, and y'all are ripping families apart and sending them to detention camps. Like, miss me with the foolishness. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I understand. I understand the over marketing of hypersexuality and violence.
Absolutely,
too,
we do.
Our social scientists understand that when they talked about changing.
Shout out to D1.
Changing our code of conduct.
Yes,
was that shouldn't be all they market to us, but. Don't be hypocrites.
And here's the thing, though. That's the key part of it, though. That's what they market, because there's music out there. There's a guy named AJ McQueen that has real music. No profanity, no degrading women, but you're not pushing him, right?
And
there's
D1.
There's the D1. There's several black artists that are talking about
Caesar.
music. You know? I mean...
Andy Pejorano.
Yes, indeed.
Andy Reba. Yeah, you got some of the... Right here.
Yeah. Lareese is from New Orleans. Lareese is making good music. He's a young kid. Yeah. No profanity. He's making real solid music. But the powers that be don't promote that. So who's really the villain here? Because I mean, we're not packaging and producing and putting out. You know, you don't get a Sexy Red without the industry pushing that stuff. So let's be clear.
I don't. Well, I'm.
That's what they're pushing.
I am. Maybe it's and I like some good sultry stuff too.
I like Anita Baker.
Yeah, but
I clean my house to Anita
what
Baker.
Sexy Red and Glow and Meg Thee Stallion are doing, in many cases they take it a little too far for me, because I had the occasion to walk into a room of 12 and 13-year-olds who are in my family, and the music about certain parts of the body that was coming out of Sexy Red and Glow's mouth to me, and it was hurtful, because how do we protect our kids for that? Now, I'm not saying when you're an adult you can make your own choices. It's just like these Republicans shouldn't be hypocrites, because when you talk about hard rock, they don't call it hard rock.
Right. They're saying some very lewd things on there. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, though. That's what's being pushed. Even if the DJs wanted to play certain music, even if, it's what's being pushed. It's what's being funded. Just no different than everyday, like tobacco and alcohol. It's what's being funded. It's what's saturating the TV. That's what they see.
I forgot the name of one of the original OG female rappers, what her name was, and she called it this promotion for prostitution.
Yeah.
Rap. But that's something we need to deal with within.
But let's not act like Tupac
community.
didn't make conscious music that wasn't pushed. You don't hear changes on the radio like you hear Hit 'Em Up. You don't hear Brenda's Got a Baby the way that you hear the Hit 'Em Up song. So it's like, or the Ether song from Nas,
Tupac or
No Vaseline. Like that's what they were pushing, because that's the message that they want our children to saturate them. So that's why drill music became so popular.
Well, as someone who come up,
they want them to kill.
Who came up with Grandmaster Flash and Curtis Blow.
Did you look at that?
And
right there in Dallas, OT, he ran a car into a group of protesters. First, he almost hit the police officer. Yeah. And then he continued to try to run over the protesters. And the police response is what everybody's talking about now, because it wasn't the type of response that you would think would be warranted for an action such as his.
Yeah, I want to get back to the evolution of comedy of Tupac, though, because if you know the history of Tupac,
I'm a huge fan.
And his mom, Tupac was pushed into gangster rap. He was when you watch him speak.
Yes.
He was a refined actor and thespian, historian. When he spoke, he put a comma when he paused and a period at the end, and then it created a character. And I'm not saying it wasn't both, but the young brother was one of the most eloquent. You would have thought he was a college professor at 15 and 16.
Well, that's why they're studying him in colleges and universities.
But at the end of his life, all they promoted.
That's all they promoted.
Was the bang bang, how you want it, and that wasn't the total of his life. And though his mom may have had her trials, she did everything to make sure that those kids.
Dear Mama is one of my favorite songs.
Good friends with Mia X, wonderful young woman, man. As a matter of fact, we took some pictures on my Instagram together. Very sophisticated people. I
know her very well. I've been in plenty of rooms with her, panels with her. But I mean, we cannot overlook the thing that caused that. There's rape allegations that put him in jail. He emphatically denied them, and then he was up against a wall, and he was bailed out of that situation by that label. And even in being on the label, he wanted out. He wanted to have his own faction of the label so he could do the type of music that he wanted to do. And before he could do that, unfortunately, he was murdered. But there was a lot of consciousness in him.
Man.
Yeah, there was a lot of consciousness in him.
That's the hypocrisy of the 17 who signed the letter. Look, look.
Talking about lewd.
Yeah, nobody wants their children to be dipped into, immersed in lewd. Nobody wants their women. We don't. Our mothers, or grandmothers, daughters, or sisters to be disrespected, but
they just want to control everything. Though they want to control everything, they want to act as if it's their way or no way. But it's hypocrisy at its best.
Have you forgotten the band Kiss? the reputation of the Rolling Stones.
Yeah. They were biting birds' heads off on stage and stuff. Like, come on now.
Ozzy Osbourne.
Miss me with that. Like, just miss me with it. Like, no, we're not doing that.
No, we are not. but it was a wonderful weekend. Shout out to the African American Entrepreneur Small Business Party. Was one of the first Super Bowl events yesterday. Man, those brothers and sisters came out. Many fighting and positioning themselves to be a part of this $1 billion week and $1 billion weekend, which is going to be Super Bowl. So, man, I saw the owners of the Orleans Brothers, man, one of the few African American companies that deal with steel. There was just a wide array. The young sister with her own wine. It was just a really, really, really good mixture of African American men and women and their businesses, and folk were having a good time. Is over at the Empire, Alonzo and Joey, the brothers who own that venue. We don't have to take a backseat to anyone. We have great restaurateurs now that offer a variety of what you want, whether it's from The Verdict to Marlrose, from Ty Nola, Orleans Brothers, Ito's, Little Dizzy's, and on. And I don't mean to miss out on anybody.
Yeah.
But the Empire, man, with Joey Lee and what Lonzo do, that place is, and I've been to venues all over the world. The Empire don't have to take a backseat to anybody. And you can have multiple parties. It's big enough and classy enough. You can have multiple events going on in the same place.
Yeah. And listen, there's also some jewels on the West Bank as well where you can have good food. And have a good experience. As a matter of fact, over at Beauchamps, Beauchamps has a new location on Stump now.
Oh, okay.
And we need to put our eyes on that building because there's a push by some white community members. They don't want them in the Tarrytown, Gretna area. So they're doing everything that they can to make them uncomfortable in that space.
Good people,
but
man.
They're very good people. Chef Damien and his wife Cheryl, two
they don't call nobody
phenomenal.
no
I mean, it's so crazy what they're enduring there because they just found a new building. They've not been there long, but there's a guy that is terrorizing them. Every event they have, he sits across the street. He calls the police. He
Kinda
films
like what
them.
they were trying to do with nice guys.
Absolutely, and so we have to call up on our elected, especially our black elected officials in Jefferson Parish, to make certain that
the one
that what is happening there is equitable to them. They're not causing any disturbances. They're not having any, they're not a nuisance to the community. They're not an eyesore. The building is gorgeous, and I mean it's right there in the 1700 block of Stump. If you want to, go pass by and support them, do so. But we have to make certain that when we get to that level where we have ownership of something, that we don't allow people to push us out with false narratives. So I'm hoping and praying. And shout out to Damien and Cheryl Banks over there at Beauchamps. The facility is gorgeous.
Go support them, man.
Gorgeous, absolutely.
Well, look, we've come to that point, man. We got a great show lined up, man. I know that I may have to go to a 8 o'clock panel, 8:30 panel discussion, but we're going to talk education, and that's why I'm so glad, man. When you talk about education, we have one of the foremost authorities here on WBOK, host, expert, any aspect of education, no matter what all the other issues are, from crime to housing to job. If our kids are educated, if they get what they need by the 3rd grade, if the resources are put into the classroom, if our administrators and our systems and our buildings get what they need, then it doesn't matter whether the world is racist or sexist or there's gender or religious discrimination. All children will have what they need to combat that. So there's no one more qualified to have those discussions and actually to do the work than my co-host, Dr. Shanta Wise.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
I like to, you know why I like to listen to you because, and there's someone who's a big brother to you. I do think that a lot of times we enter into discussions where our emotions, we have to temper our emotions and we got to deal with the issues. But there's no time that you don't have an intellectual discussion where your heart and your passion for our children isn't there.
Thank you.
And thank you for that.
I appreciate you. I appreciate that. I think that I'm grateful for the platform that is WBOK, because I think folk get to see the wholeness of who I am. Not what they heard about me, not what somebody said, not what they read, but you can hear it firsthand from me.
Isn't it good? Isn't it good when you can, first of all, understand what someone says?
Yes.
Right? Understand the fact that they're smart and they know what they're talking about, and that they're passionate about what's coming out of their mouth and their brain. It ain't phony, right? And I think too often today, and I'll give some credit, it may not have connected for the right reason, but one of the reasons that Republicans, conservatives, and Trump were able to connect was they gave the appearance of being everyday people.
Yes.
Now, they have been wolves in sheep's clothing, but too often in our community, when we see everyday people, people who care, sometimes we forget how qualified they are. WBOK,
Talk about it.
12:30 a.m.
What New Orleans is talking about.
Whose station?
Our station.
I say it's your station. We'll be back. Dr. Eric Jones, Education Conversation, after the break.
This is Monica Pierre along with Sally Ann Roberts Daybone, co-host of Your Power is On.
Your Power is On Gospel Music Show is coming on at a new time. Tune in Sunday mornings from 7 to 8 a.m. for music that feeds the spirit. Get your Sunday on.
Right here on WBOK 1230 a.m. and WBOK1230.com, the station you listen to
all day long.
Good morning. I'm Daryl Forges with WDSU News. And here's your headlines. The fight over school board funding takes center stage this morning. This comes after some New Orleans City Council members are enraged, saying the mayor's administration is holding up approved school board funding. Back in November, we told you the city of New Orleans was investing $20 million to help Orleans public schools with a budget deficit. But now council members tell us the city attorney and chief financial officer will not sign off on the deal they agreed upon, saying there wasn't one. The city sent out a statement, part of which read, quote, "Our administration, the mayor and CFO, will work with the administrators of the school board to secure a settlement that is also financially feasible for the city." All right, we're just days away from the big matchup between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. To kick things off, tonight fans are invited inside the Superdome to welcome the Eagles and the Chiefs. Also happening today, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem will be in New Orleans to meet with Governor Jeff Landry and the NOPD. The two will visit the Bourbon Street Memorial to recognize the victims of the New Year's terror attack and discuss safety measures for Super Bowl 59. Also, WDSU is proud to be the official broadcast partner of the New Orleans Super Bowl Host Committee Parade on Saturday. The parade starts at the corner of Esplanade Avenue and Decatur Street at 10 in the morning, and then goes through the French Quarter and down Decatur to Poydras Street, then goes right by Gallier Hall on St. Charles Avenue. As the official broadcast partner, WDSU will have crews live all along the route, giving you the exclusive access. If you can't make it out to the route, you can watch all the excitement right here on WDSU or website WDSU.com. We'll also bring all the fun through the very local app across the country. I'm Daryl Forges, and that's your headlines for WBOK. Have a great day.
NOLA Public Schools' main round enrollment for kindergarten through 12th grade is now open. With 73 schools available through the NOLA Public Schools Common Application Process, or NCAP, finding the right school fit for your family is easier than ever. List up to 12 choices to maximize your chances and apply by January 24th. We're all in, and we hope you are too. Apply today at enrollnolaps.com. That's enrollnolaps.com.
The National World War II Museum. Located in the Warehouse District of New Orleans, the National World War II Museum tells the story of America's experience in the war that changed the world, why it was fought, how it was won, and what it means today. Visit them online at www.nationalww2museum.org for time tickets and safety information.
Hello, I'm Gary Clark. Please tune in to Dr. Clark 101, The Living Classroom, which is broadcasted weekly every Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. on WBOK 1230 a.m. on your dial. And as always, it's been a pleasure.
Talk That. NOLA Education is all about awareness. Join Dr. Jakir Ross from New Schools for New Orleans to learn about the TEP Center during our Black History Month Spotlight with Program Director Tremaine Riley. Tune in for Talk That this Monday at 12:30 p.m. on 1230 a.m.
It's Black History Month, and WBOK remembers Aretha Castle Haley, born July 22nd, 1939, was an American civil rights activist in New Orleans, where she challenged the segregation of facilities and promoted voter registration. She came from a working class background, yet was able to enroll in the Southern University of New Orleans, SUNO, then a center of student activism. She joined the protest marches and went on to become a prominent activist in the civil rights movement and other causes.
I was working at Hotel Dieu with the Good Nuns. I knew that when I sat in, I was going to be fired. I knew that. When I reported to work that Tuesday morning, the supervisor said, go into the dining room. And when I went into the dining room, there was the Good Nun sitting there, and she had my paycheck. She did this. She said, take it, get out of here, and don't ever come back.
Aretha Castle's home served as the New Orleans headquarters for the freedom fighters. With help from Aretha's mother Virgie and sister Doris, their home housed and fed hundreds of freedom riders coming and going through the summer. During Black History Month, WBOK remembers Aretha Castle Haley.
Black History. WBOK 1230 AM. Celebrating Black History Month. Making a difference in the community. WBOK 1230 AM. Good morning, wake up. The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK 1230 AM.
We are back. 29 minutes past the top of the hour, and man, I guess I got to go back to school. I'm sitting between two doctors, right? And yeah, well, hey, look, I got a doctorate degree in talking about stuff anyway. So I got a couple of little degrees, but I ain't Doc Jones and Dr. Ashanto Wyatt. And as always, every conversation we have is about education because, like I said before, if it's about tiddlywinks, Dr. Wyatt's going to say, well, what does that mean to our children? Have we taught them the origins of the history of tiddlywinks?
Yes.
Do they know how to make them? And now we have the other doc, Dr. Jones. Welcome back to the Good Morning Show.
Thank you, Oliver. Thank you. Good to be on. Good to be back, too.
How you doing, man?
Going great.
As my auntie would say, how you doing?
How you doing?
You know,
doing
she
awesome.
put an R in it.
Doing awesome. How you doing? Doing great.
You doing good?
Yeah, doing great.
So for folk who may not be listening, who is Eric Doc Jones?
Oh, well, a native New Orleanian, lifelong resident. Love my community, lived here all my life. Worked in the public school system my entire adult life. Community activist.
Where'd you go to high school, Doc?
Walter L. Cohen.
St.
Aug, too, but they put me out of St. Aug.
The Hornets.
Yeah, they put me out of St. Aug.
Well, I just buried one of my good friends, man. I grew up in Lower Nine, the late Jesse Papps Quiet, Alan Toussaint's son. Didn't have Alan's last name, but he was Alan's son. And we just lost Jesse. We just lost Papps. Papps went from Lawless, they moved, then he went to Cohen Hornets.
Yeah, Green
Basketball
Hornets.
player, football player.
Green Hornets, they say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wallow Cole.
So, Doc, are you doing okay, man?
Doing great, man. Doing great.
So we've been paying attention to, there's another, in the midst of what we're dealing with, there's another couple of education issues. And,
yes.
Dr. Wyatt leads those discussions. We talk about them, but now another thing has surfaced. It's the powers that be on both sides fighting about money for our children.
Yeah.
How do you see that? And I know you've always been a proponent for getting in the room and working it out and making sure our kids don't suffer. Mm-hmm. But the most important thing we have is our kids in early child education, right?
Yeah. So when you talk about the issue with the $36 million, when you think about what the district had done at the board level and even at the administrative level, right? You can't miscalculate something that you not paying attention to. When we talk about infrastructure in the school district, you can't blame that on anybody but the board and the district. And the key word is accountability. Now the board is trying to fix.
They're also in the middle of this battle with the administration about this deal for the
$20 million.
$20 million.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about right now. But the $36 million is the miscalculation. But the $20 million is what they're asking the city to help them fix their mistake, right? That's a mistake.
But isn't the board also saying that there was a miscalculation of the taxes, which is they're owed the $20 million?
But again, they can disguise that all they want. We need to expose the issues when we talk about errors. We hold the schools that they're responsible for accountable for their mistakes, i.e., the school that they just closed because it was $2 million.
So there are no innocent actors.
No.
One can't blame
the other. No, one cannot blame the other. We got to own our mistakes. And then that's the one thing about not being transparent. We don't own our mistake. We don't acknowledge the mistakes we're making because we then look for somebody to bail us out. So the district can't get a bailout and want the community to be a support of them when they don't even own their own error. They don't even own their own mistake. So when we talk about the $20 million that the city may or may not give to them, and they are actually upset about that, they have to also look at the responsibility of them making a mistake, not holding the district administration, accountable, i.e., this great superintendent that they talked about did such a great job, the last superintendent, and the fact that last superintendent did not make that mistake but owned up to that mistake. But the reason they wanted to remove this superintendent was not because of the $36 million error, was because of the floodgates she opened with district-run, direct-run schools. So now when we talk about...
So what do you mean by that?
Well, when you talk about
because that's a different... That part of the conversation hasn't been...
It should be, though.
Public.
It should be public.
Well, maybe it would be if there wasn't an NDA in the way. I have an issue with a non-disclosure agreement when this is public money we're talking about. Salaries are not paid with private philanthropy dollars. Salaries for a superintendent is paid with a tax base. That's public money.
Public money.
And so I'm not comfortable with a non-disclosure agreement being put in place when this is our money. We deserve a right to know what actually took place with the former superintendent. And as you stated, if she's being made to account for opening the Leah Chase School.
These aren't private.
Yeah,
funds.
these not private dollars. There should not be an NDA put in place.
Right.
That's just my opinion. And when we talk about transparency, we have to also talk about if the $36 million falls on the superintendent, her number two person, her deputy superintendent, is just as culpable. That's a team. She brought her here. So you can on one hand say she's responsible, but then you slide her in. There's something is wrong and off here. And I'm just talking about the optics of it.
And if you talk about responsibilities, and I'm the superintendent, then I actually have a staff that's responsible for those situations.
Checks and balances.
Checks and balances.
But what I heard you say was that the issue about the accounting error was one thing, but the issue about governance and education, there was another issue.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that issue was when you
accounting.
open the floodgates in terms of you want to manage a school.
What they call direct run.
You want to manage a school that they call direct run schools when they're saying to us at this moment that the schools never existed, because at the end of the day they say this is our first direct run school. What happened to all those schools in the past that were under the district? We all attended public schools.
Because they've rebranded. So that's
not only did they rebrand, they removed. Let's be clear. They removed schools under the auspices of the Orleans Parish School Board. Although they say it exists with 100% of schools returning back, we know that's not the case. 100% of schools did not return back because we have a superintendent and a board that only operates as an authorizer. Let's remember that.
Can I also ask this question? Because I think full picture people need to understand the superintendent works for the board.
Yes.
So how do we make a $36 million miscalculation in a silo? It will not happen.
Doctor, so I got to ask you a question. Right?
Yes.
First of all, as a neophyte, as someone who's not expert outside.
Yes.
You're talking about governance. You all, education, that's what you all do.
Yes.
You said that the superintendent works for the board.
Yes.
But there are charter systems. Does the superintendent work for the charter system?
She does not. Well, she was not.
Oh,
She was not
does-
be in charge of
okay.
the. So the way that it works is we do not have a school system. We have a
Right.
system of separate schools.
Of
So
schools.
each
That's what
each
Dr. Boyd
each CMO entity has their own individual board that they answer to. So like a CEO will answer to the board for that organization. Our superintendent, Avis Williams, our former superintendent, she worked at the behest of the board. They're the only body that can hire or fire her.
Does not
That's
answer
it.
to those others.
No, she does
To
not.
some degree,
She does not, but
yeah.
I think that's how they wanted it,
Yeah,
though.
yeah.
I think the charter management operators wanted her to kind of like kowtow to them, but she's not supposed to answer to
Okay.
them. It's supposed to be the
Yeah.
other way
I
around.
needed that
Yeah.
explained.
Yeah,
But
but when she only has the power to authorize and deauthorize, then what actual power does she really have to influence what's happening with the charter schools? That's why we need some sort of unified
Yeah.
hybrid system so that folk can understand how this
Important for our
goes.
listeners to understand the governance structure. So thank you for
Yes.
answering that. Go ahead. Finish,
But the
and we got a
role, but I'm
caller.
saying the role and the responsibility of the superintendent, even as an authorizer, is mandated to hold these charter schools accountable, fiscally and academically, because that's how they renew, a de-renewal, like you said, or close schools, or even look for opening new schools.
But I have a problem
Right,
with that
right.
system
And
because
I-
you only wait
and I
to intervene when
Right.
you're deauthorizing.
But that's because of the structure of the system that was dismantled.
Right.
If we had systems in place that managed the district itself, which resides in the municipality, so you cannot have taxes without representation.
I think that was one of the first conversations I had with you
Yes.
years ago.
It was.
When we were doing the education
Education out,
101.
yep, yes.
After I realized that we had expertise was on the sideline.
Yeah.
When we would call you do education 101, was that it was the issue of we have a system that waits until a school should be
It's in
closed
trouble, yes.
rather than intervene. Let's go to the lines. Line number one, Mayor Calhoun, you're on with Dr. White and Dr. Jones.
Good morning to everyone.
Good morning.
Everybody pretty much know what my questions are. The deauthorization of schools. As I read through the framework that tells how to and what's the responsibility of everybody when they're going to deauthorize a school, I'm still having difficulty trying to find out where in that framework does it say that to deauthorize, close a D school. It seems like what I've read is that all the framework is for when you have a F school. So if the school is not a F school, do they have just because the superintendent makes the recommendation to deauthorize it, I don't see where that process of even where the rules come from. The other piece to this is how do you hold the school board accountable for when they do things like that? Because to me, it seems as if they decide that they want to close a school, they don't need no rules or regulations. They just go into it. So we down here in the lower nine is actually coming together across the city to see if we can't have some accountability coming from the school board on what's going on with our district. So if you would, I'm looking at that, and I'm also looking at how do we help the Dolores Taylor School and get them to, those kids, that senior class, to have something commemorable about their senior year in terms of a prom and a class night and all that they can recognize the school they attended for the last couple of years. So I'm going to sit back and I'm going to listen.
Yeah, I'm going to let my two experts here decipher that.
So, Reverend Calhoun, and to the audience that's listening, when you talk about deauthorizing schools, we really need to understand the dynamics of what's happening when we use those two things, renewing and deauthorizing schools to remain open. When you think about MLK School at Lawless in the Night War, if you heard the narrative about New School New Orleans, the school board itself, the president, and the members of that board saying we have no failing schools. I want to make sure people understand there are no failing schools. So if there are no failing schools for the first time in the history of this system that they're running, why is it that you're closing the school that you say is not failing? So here's the thing. Whether they want to close it or not, whether it meets any of the qualifications or the criteria that is required of them to stay open. Here's the two things they did not do. If they knew this school was in danger, they allowed it to happen for the last 3 to 4 years. You didn't even do any checks and balances. Now all of a sudden you're going to hold that authorized or that system accountable, but yet the district don't even hold themselves accountable for their own mistakes.
So, Dr. Jones, okay,
that's a problem for me.
Okay, you're our guest, right? So we want to pick your brain. But that's the foundation of the conversation Dr. Wyden and I had years ago.
Yep.
Is about why would you wait? It doesn't seem to make sense because there's some kids are being sacrificed, communities being sacrificed. What should have happened? Or okay, you weren't successful in your quest for the school board, but you're still an educator, right?
Still active.
What should they be doing instead of waiting for a school to be D, or a school to be F, or a school to close?
Part of the board's responsibility is to make sure that the superintendent that they've appointed or hired is to make sure there are checks and balances and accountability is on a regular basis. So which means if you have enough people on your administrative staff or your team that works for the district, you have to do those checks and balances on a daily basis. Listen, they have to report and put in their reports every year, every quarter, every year, every time that reporting happens. The problem is the district feels like they have no autonomy, or the administration feels like they have no autonomy to even do checks and balances. They waive who they want to waive. They decide who they want to keep open or close. They determine it. And here's why you got to understand that. They're not closing schools because the schools are failing, because they should be helping those schools do better than what they're doing, whether it's financial, whether it's academic, or whether it's instruction, etc., or even a teacher problem. They're closing them based on real estate. And I keep saying that, and people don't want to hear that. You closing schools and making these transitions where these schools are moving from, buildings are moving from moving. When you look at how many schools have these operators that have these schools, names come up.
First of all, let me jump in, Doc, and say this. And I said this.
And those are facts, though.
I said, oh no, I'm not disputing anything you're saying. I said this to you, Oliver, as a guest on this show before. There's a charter management operator in this city that has perpetual failing schools. They've allowed this person, because of her status and her connections to a whole bunch of money, to pull a charter off the shelf. Because, their charter's sitting on the shelves for some of these bigger monopoly charters. So what she did was, the two current charters she had, they were failing. She took them and merged them and pulled the charter off the shelf and restarted the clock.
We're going to go to break.
That's not how that should go. That's not what the charter on the shelf was meant to do.
We're going to go to break on that. And when we come back, we're going to continue to pick these two brains, but also pick the brain of our guests.
Yes.
Former school board candidate, educator, a former administrator. I tell folk a lot of times I didn't understand the conversation during the election about education because I met you in the classroom.
And so did I.
Decades ago. So that should have been the last thing people were concerned about, because the first time I ever set eyes on you.
But how was it a real concern when the opposition there was no like it's just foolishness.
But we're going to take a break. And then when we come back, man, I'm sandwiched between two docs, right? So I'm going to be smarter today and tomorrow because of what we're doing this morning. WBOK 1230 a.m.
What New Orleans is talking about.
Station?
Our station.
You damn. You're doggone right. We'll be back after the break.
This is your news update for WBOK 1230 AM from WDSU. For all your news and weather, watch WDSU News, New Orleans' leader in live, local, late-breaking news. Today at noon and 4 p.m.
Patchy fog for the morning commute, then mostly sunny and dry with highs in the mid to upper 70s. Clouds increase this afternoon and overnight with another chance for fog. Lows in the mid 50s to low 60s. Tuesday is mostly cloudy but warm. Highs in the mid to upper 70s. A few 80s are possible. Multiple mornings with fog are possible this week, along with a midweek shower or two. From the WDSU First Warning Weather Center, I'm Raven Richard.
Hello, I'm Sharon Levine, founder and director of Rise St. James. I want to invite you to our 6th annual Black History Ceremony on Saturday, February 22nd at Rosie's Catering in St. James, Louisiana.
Saturday, February 22nd, a day of unity and legacy with the theme of Mzizi Yakina, celebrating deep roots and enduring brilliance. Keynote speaker Heather McTeer-Toney, singing, education, and delicious soul food. Visit risestjames.org for details.
We hope you can join us at Rosie's Catering in St. James, Louisiana.
WBOK and LCMC Health are proud to present Keeping You Well Cafe. 60 Minutes with LCMC Health, where the doctors speak directly to the people of New Orleans. LCMC Health is committed to improving the quality of care here in New Orleans, the Gulf South, and beyond. The Keeping You Well Cafe is another way for LCMC Health to engage with the community. At the Keeping You Well Cafe, LCMC Health joins WBOK and local businesses to answer your questions about wellness and health.
Good morning, wake up. The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK 1230 AM.
Back 48 minutes past the top of the hour, WBOK 1230 AM.
As always talking about.
And it's definitely Doc Station. 504-582-9422. One of our probably most popular discussions anytime there's discussion about education. It is the foundation. If you want to have a foundation, every study that's ever been read, every survey that's ever been read, every white paper that's ever been written by Dr. Wyatt or our guest, Dr. Jones, talks about especially what has to happen with early child education and our kids having access to quality schools. Doc, you were talking about governance structure before, which a lot of people don't know, right? So all of these different systems, it's kind of hard to have accountability when you have several systems competing for finances, competing for real estate, competing for governance.
I think the biggest takeaway about understanding governance is the CMOs are following the lead of our locally elected school board. Because even if you think about how meetings are held, right? They don't answer to parents. They don't answer any questions. And so there's a tone set there where the CMOs believe that they could block parents out. You have no buy-in. I've actually been a part of schools where a parent has called for my help because the school told them that they're not allowed on the campuses. How do you not allow a parent on the campus where their child is being educated? Barring some sort of threat to the environment or to the children, there's no reason or rationale that would be okay with me, with you telling me that a parent can't come on a campus. So the first thing is we have disconnected ourselves from community with these schools. There's zero buy-in from community stakeholders and zero buy-in from parent organizations. We used to have parent organizations that infiltrated schools and made certain that there was almost like a watchdog entity for parental concerns. We don't have that anymore. But I think the tone is set by our actual board because there's not an issue that you could bring before the board that they're going to directly address. And I think that has to change. We've gone from having open meetings where you had 3 minutes to have a conversation with them. They dwindled it down to 2 without any buy-in from the public. That's just what they've done. And then you have almost like a bullying style of having the open meetings where they don't even let you finish your last thought. The person that's on the panels just start yelling. It's just so disrespectful. The whole culture of how we do school has to change here. And that's my issue. That's not a culture that is predicated upon academic growth for our children and the holistic needs of our kids, because it's more than just about the A, B's, and C's of it all, because we do know those are not even accurate.
So, Dr. Jones, let's continue to pick your brain. First of all, thank you for being a guest
Thank you
here.
for having me.
You just went on this journey. You weren't successful on the journey, but it doesn't stop you from fighting
Not at all.
for quality education.
Not at all.
Dr. Wyatt has consistently explaed the who's on first, the Laurel and Hardy show about governance. So, I could say Amos and Andy about governance, right? As someone who was a recent candidate, what fixes that?
Well, first of all, I want to say this to Dr. Wyatt. We got to remember that these schools are public facilities.
Oh, I remember.
Public, so you cannot. You're public with public money, and you cannot stop and should not be able to stop anybody, particularly parents who you service their children, entering into those buildings. And when you put parent policies in place to restrict them from entering into those public facilities, it's insane, and it should not happen, and that needs to stop, and the board needs to stop that, because the board is the authorizer. So when they're creating those CMO documents...
So you said something for layman, right? You said the board is the authorizer. What do you mean by that?
That means they decide who they get to have a school in our district, in our city, whether it's a renewed school, whether it's a new school, or whether it's a school that there's transition. The board is the governing body as an authorizer. So when they're signing those cooperative endeavor agreements or those memorandum of understanding agreements or the contract with those CMOs, that needs to be put in there, and not one of those items that I just mentioned are put in there where parents have the right to go into those buildings. So that those public contracts they're giving them full control as authorized. That's the first thing. When we talk about what change looks like, we have to be able to give parents the autonomy for involvement. We want parents to be involved. When kids get in trouble, that's when you want the parents there. But when parents want to come just to check on the kids, they got to go through.
You need an appointment.
They got to go through all that, like they're going to a doctor's office and all that. That's not fair, and that's not fair access. The district have to become more aware of public. You know how many town hall school board member meetings we've had in the last 5 years? Zero.
Let me ask you this: how do you feel about, because there's this this idea floating around about the next superintendent has to have superintendent experience to be considered for the superintendent role. I have a huge push against that for whatever reason that I have it, right? But let's just think about this. There are charter management operators who have full autonomy, who have no education background, that are creating curriculums for our children. So let's start there. You know what I mean? How do we make that make sense? If you give me full autonomy to run my school how I want, I can pick the academic part, the transportation part, the food part, but I have no understanding of pedagogy, of the curriculum. I have no, how can I entrust that to you? But then I'm telling a person who is degreed and qualified that you need this box to be checked to even be
Dr.
considered.
Jones, and we have two callers.
Listen, the qualification for a superintendent across the country is very clear, very clear. Now, they create their own when they wanted this entrepreneurship, and that's the one thing we miss. We allow this experiment to start calling our schools a business. Children are not products like you sell off a shelf.
Commodities.
And commodities, that's the problem. So we made a school district,
So we created
a corporation.
a business model, not a model of
business that
education.
doesn't work for children, educating children. So when we even look at that, when we're talking about the expertise of a superintendent, it's why we still at the bottom of the list, because of the selection process of their criteria. A person who's going to be the superintendent has to have a lengthy level of classroom experience as a teacher, lengthy level of assistant principal or administrative, even district level, which right now none of that happens because they dictate New School New Orleans, let's call it out, New School New Orleans, these ed reformers who get the dictate only here. Only in the city of New Orleans. It's only happening in the city. It's not even happening in St. Bernard. It's not happening in Jefferson Parish. Why is it only happening here? We have to hold them accountable.
So let's get to our callers, man. Line number one, Miss Alicia. Good morning. God bless you. You're on with Dr. Jones.
Good morning, everyone. Eric Dot Jones, they should have let you win as the educator versus the hairdresser, because now you sit in a position that you can let us know where the bones are buried. And I appreciate all that you're saying now, and I hope you continue this. The school board in itself is dysfunctional. They have an attorney sitting up there knowing things are wrong, like they let Ethan Ashley sit there for all those years, and he did not live in the district that he was required to, the district that he was voted to represent. He lived in another school board member's district, and they all knew it. They did nothing. When we go to the podium and try to talk, they censor you. When you start talking about what the problems are, they get the police to escort you out. So a lot of stuff goes on over there, and people keep saying, why don't y'all go to the school board meeting? We fill it up in that little bitty room, which is against the law, because the law says the school board meetings should be where the majority of the schools exist. and that is on the East Bank, and they used to be in the McDonough 35 school building. But, I think something needs to happen, because if we're not continuing to educate our children, giving them apples, they're going to pick up the guns and continue to put guns in our faces.
Thank you.
I just feel so sorry for our kids. We need fighters out here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lee. Line number 2, Mr. Ronald. You're on with Doc Jones.
Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you good, Mr. Ronald.
I've been trying to get this lady since 3 weeks ago when I heard her talk about building them debts in Steve Police. She got me listening at y'all station. That's right.
Okay.
And she's for real. She is for real. Don't let her go, because I never heard nobody talk like that. Like the Lord dropped her down here to do something. I've been trying to get y'all for 3 weeks. Don't let Dr. White go nowhere. No.
Thank you, Mr. Ronald.
She ought to raise some. She ought to run for something. Because she can talk. She's a talker. No. That's all I want to say.
Thank you so much. I appreciate
Mr.
you.
Ronald, thank you, and have a great Super Bowl week and a great every week, Mr. Ronald. We're going to go to break, guys. When we come back, I tell you, anytime we have conversations about education, lines are lit up, people engaged. We want to thank Doc Jones. Doc, you can stay with us past the break, can't you? Can you?
Yeah.
But we're not finished with you. We're not finished with you.
No, we got a lot more to talk. We got more to say.
We ain't finished with you.
Thank you.
WBOK 1230 a.m.
What New Orleans is talking about.
Station?
Our station.
Damn right it is. We'll be back. Somebody's calling. Keep calling, guys.
WBOK 1230 a.m. New Orleans. Home of the Good Morning Show, 7 to 9 a.m. weekdays.
This news report is brought to you by New Schools for New Orleans.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 things you should know with BIN News. Emily Hernandez, previously pardoned for her role in the January 6th riot, was sentenced to 10 years in prison for a fatal drunk driving crash in 2022 that killed Vicki Wilson and injured her husband. Costco is raising its hourly pay to $30.20 for top earners and $20 for entry-level workers following union contract talks. This increase applies to both union and non-union locations. Recovery efforts continue after Wednesday night's plane crash near Washington, D.C. Dozens of bodies have been recovered from the Potomac River. The crash involved an American Airlines jet with 64 people and an American Black Hawk helicopter with 3 soldiers. And Meta will fire employees who leak internal info, according to a leaked memo following CEO Mark Zuckerberg's complaints about leaks. The memo states that leaks will be taken seriously and action will be taken. I'm Bree Wood on the Black Information Network, your home for Black News First.
February is Black History Month, a time to honor the leaders and change makers who paved the way. At New Schools for New Orleans, we're celebrating the next generation of trailblazers, our students. Louisiana recently made historic gains on the nation's report card, climbing from the 49th to 32nd in just 5 years, our highest ranking ever. With progress in both ELA and math, we're proving what's possible. Tune in for Talk That on 12:30 a.m. and 12:30 p.m. as we uplift Black excellence, past, present, and future.
Good morning. Wake up. The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK 1230 a.m.
At the top of the hour. I may look stupid, but I ain't stupid as I look, y'all. I be paying attention sometimes. And then I got folk with me like Dr. Wyden and today with Dr. Jones with the education, where I learn every time I listen. The 2 ears are better than 1 mouth, especially if it's something you don't know what you're talking about. Line number 1, Mr. Bowyer, good morning. God bless you. On with Dr. Wyden OT and our guest, Dr. Eric Jones. Mr. Bowyer.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
And I hope I don't get my mic cut off before my 2 minutes is up. But
Not here.
here we go. I was at the recent school board meeting, and astonished at the lack of the way. Well, I'm going to change the way we the public was received by the board. I mean, everything Alicia said was true. They're standing by, scared about what you're going to say to them. And then even after the meeting, they beeline to their cars. I mean, you had to stop school board members to have a conversation with them. They wasn't ready to talk to us. But I'm going to say, I saw something like this coming. I saw something like this happen with the archdiocese schools. When they closed the black elementary schools and merged them into one school, I knew that was going to be the demise of the Catholic education in the city for our black kids. They closed Epiphany, Corpus Christi, Our Lady Star to Sea, Peter Claver. I think it's about 5 or 6 black schools, and made them all go to one school. It's called Marian Central. I refused to participate with that with my kids. And I said that now you see what Catholic schools look like for the churches, and the church being in the pedophile trouble and all that. And I can't help but wonder if that school on Gentilly, there used to be St. James Major, where my kids went, and I coached that. It's being sold off so the archdiocese to get some money to pay off the pedophile priests. But let's get away from that and come back to the public school system. Back when after Katrina, when schools were first opening back up, I did a fire drill at Nichols School. You had 3 schools in one building. I go there and ask for the principal. They asked me which one. I said the one that's at the principal of the school. I had to pick up the 3, and the young lady I got to talk to that was the principal. When I asked her how long she had been in a principal for looking so young, she said that the year before she was in banking, that she didn't have a real education background other than being a substitute teacher from time to time. And I've been confused ever since. And I guess I'm talking about 15 years ago. And I may not be the longest straw in the pick, but it's not. I don't understand how it goes. And I'm guessing
we're going to have Dr. Jones break that down for us. Thank you, Mr.
I don't think the parents understand how this stuff works. That's the danger to me.
But I think that's what we're doing here this morning. When you talk about governance, who's on first, the systems that involved versus the system. Thank you, Mr. Beck. Great question. Dr. Jones?
Well, I didn't hear as much as you're saying in terms of, I think he was talking about the inexperience that they have when they just make these ready-made folk who's coming out of banking, who's coming out of anything else. We don't even have criteria when we talk about charter systems, right? And we bypass the laws in terms of teachers who need to be certified in public district schools. When you're a charter school, you bypass that. You handpicking who you want to lead those schools who have very limited experience to even run schools, to manage schools, to even at the district level. Is why that error was there. Whether they want to blame it on the city or blame it on themselves, it's inexperienced people that are in those positions. These people that they believe, oh, you look good, you sound good, we're going to move you up. And those internal promotions doesn't help us.
To answer a question from someone who texted me. So when you say inexperienced, you mean inexperience in education?
Absolutely, because that's what we're talking about. You cannot, I told somebody this the other day, you cannot run for a judgeship, and correct me if I'm wrong, unless you have years of experience as an attorney. You can't even serve on whatever it is, but you can't even serve on the bar unless you are a lawyer. You can't even serve on the medical board unless you a doctor. But at the end of the day, we downplay and we just put education like at the lowest of our concern, which all of us know that in order for us to have any successful career, whatever it may be, we have to pass through the doors of somebody's classroom where someone's teaching you. And we have to have these high levels of things. But yet when it comes to experiences, they just go on the shelf and just pick anything. So we, at the end of the day, if either we're going to respect education to the degree that we hold ourselves accountable, because when we make mistakes, who we blame it on? The education system. When the kids not doing well, are they out there? Who they blame it on?
Can I ask you a question?
System.
Speaking to the $36 million miscalculation, right? And since we talk about bankers, I have a feeling that if your bank right now deposited $30 million in your account, and you get to spending it, right? And they come back and they say, Dr. Jones, there was a error. Like, we want you, what you think the bank gonna expect?
They're gonna make me want to pay it back.
They want their money back.
They
right?
want their money back.
So I'm trying to understand, because see, I like to talk in regular terms because it don't make no sense to talk up here. Let's just talk about it regularly.
Okay.
If the bank is going to require you to give them their money back, if the explanation was that they allocated this money to the charters and the charter started allocating the money for whatever reason, but now the school board is saying, oh, we made a mistake, we need our money. Where is the money is my question. I don't, nobody's making that very clear to me. You don't disappear $36 million and you don't spend $36 million like that, right? Contracts are not even paid that fast. Invoices are not even paid that fast. Where is the money? That's all I want to know. And if we did not have this NDA, we would know where the money is. And I heard the former superintendent said if she was ever asked by a court, that would be the only reason. So do we need to sue to be able to get the information? Because this is public money. You don't get to have a non-disclosure agreement with our money. And I don't think we'll ever know the true nature of where this money went and how it was misallocated unless we remove the NDA. That's all I'm saying. Because if I work for the public as a superintendent, I work for children and families. If the children and families are asking me as the superintendent, where is the money? I'm not signing no NDA so I can explain to you where is the money. Because I don't want you to think that I'm living the way I'm living because I took your $36 million. That's all I'm saying. Our children and families deserve to know where the $36 million went. I want to know. And I think anybody that's applying to be the superintendent has a right to know because they're going to inherit the $36 million miscalculation or shortfall or whatever they're masking it as. But also, too, the $20 million we're talking about from the city, it is my understanding that that's a part of some sort of taxes that the school board was supposed to have that they don't have. So don't act like y'all doing us any favors.
So it's two separate entities.
Two separate things.
And which people need to understand. It is two separate entities.
But that's why I'm here to make them understand.
But they're trying to trying to hide one versus the other. And look,
all I want to know, Doc, if the bank gave you $36 million and it wasn't yours and they asked for it back, you got to give those people their money or tell them where it is.
Absolutely.
So I want to know, where is the $36 million? That's all I want to know.
And I think the public should continue to push that with the school
and
board
anybody
members.
that's applying for that job has to know where that money
absolutely.
is.
Any school board member that serves on the board right now has a duly obligation to every person that they represent the entire school district to tell us where that is. And I think we definitely need to create, even at some point, a lawsuit asking them to reveal that, because it's public information and it's public document, and it shouldn't have been any disclosure as it relates to our contract because it had nothing to do with our contract. It shouldn't have been that.
And she was paid.
And she was paid.
So to be paid.
And to hold a secret.
But that's something I don't like it, and it's something in the water ain't clean for me. And I think that's the danger in trying to block certain people from being able to sit in that seat, because if a certain person sits in that seat, transparency is the recipe of the day, right? We're going to make certain that people, I don't believe anybody should apply for that job without knowing where the $36 million went. You're not going to lay $36 million at my feet as if I'm responsible for it. I want to know where it went. And I think the public needs
or inherit that problem.
You're going to inherit that problem, but I need to know where it went.
But not only as you inherit that problem, Doc, but the other thing is you're going to be held accountable to dealing with that when the people that it happened on their watch can walk away from it. So now you're inheriting something that they'll hold on that superintendent, the incoming superintendent, and then and almost make that as a criteria.
Where's my children's money? That's
right.
The question.
I agree.
Where is my children's money? Especially when you have schools operating without curriculum, without books, without staff. Where is the money? That's all I want to know. And I don't think that we should move another further in this direction about looking for anybody until we're made to understand where's the money.
I agree.
If I'm an applicant, I'm asking that question. I want to know where is it at?
Let's go to the lines right now. Yeah, that's it is interesting though how these two issues are trying to be
merged,
convoluted.
Yeah, and they're two separate things.
Into one, and there's never been an accounting, and now you have people out there trying to blame one side. Well, you haven't really given an accounting or cleared up the other side. That's an interesting take that you guys have put on it. I guess that's the importance of what we do here with the Good Morning Show, being objective, not taking sides. Line number 1, Mr. Jones, you're on with Doc Wide and OT, and our guest, Dr. Eric Jones.
Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good morning.
I'm calling in because what I'm hearing, one, is that there's an NDA, and I don't understand why you have an NDA behind money that you took for public education that has to go to the things that it's borrowed for. There's a loan, there's the purpose of the loan. So if the FOIA request has been turned down, you have the right or standing to be able to understand why it is happening. Yeah, I take it to court and file it and say, hey, they're not turning it over. Make them turn it over under a mandamus action. You know, I would file it right now, right here today. On the other end of that, and who is the NDA with? I don't understand that exactly. You can answer that to me in a second, OT and Dr. White. But on the other end of that, the miscalculation of the money in the millage rate, I mean, who did that? No, there's no explanation as to say, well, you know, we thought the rate was 0.5 cent or 3 mils or whatever the millage rate was, and we just didn't get this right. That's a very simple explanation. And if they did that and put it in their budget, it should have gone, you know, the city should have said, oh, no, this is wrong. This is something that would have been known well ahead of time. So the math ain't mathing. Can somebody help me explain that?
Thank you. Great. All great questions.
Well, can I'm going to ask you. I
I
need to get his number because we need to have a direct conversation. But I'm gonna let Doc have the floor. He's the guest, and I'll put my 2 cents in. Go ahead, Doc.
No, I agree with Mr. Jones. Great question, great statement, great answer. He's absolutely correct when we talk about accountability, because that's what we're moving away from. We're not talking about accessibility. We're talking about accountability. We will not and continue to not hold these individuals accountable for their actions.
He asked us who is the non-disclosure with?
The non-disclosure with the board and her. Period. The non-disclosure is with the board and her. And here's the other thing. They didn't do this, from what I was told, in an executive session. So even when you talk about these issues or these items, if you've done it in a public forum, then public information is required to the public.
They put out public statements. That ought to entitle us to understand what happened.
That's the point I'm making. So at the end of the day, the board and the superintendent made an agreement, and you can see it, that if I can walk away from this, although she did not want to walk away from this, and people need to know the historical context of that, she wasn't going to leave. She wasn't going to get her contract signed again because of the floodgate of the Leah Chase School. This is why they're not talking so much about
But even if she didn't have a contract signed again, she still had 2 years.
Yeah, but just hear me out. What I'm saying to you,
and answer that in your because I want to understand. Y'all know this. This is what y'all do. But for me, the points that were made earlier by you, Dr. White, and then by Attorney Jones when he called in, was that we haven't had a resolution for the $36 million yet.
At all.
So here we're merging a whole nother discussion where folk are trying to blame people, and we don't know what happened.
Because they're trying to disguise the mistake. And see, public, if it sounds good, for the most part, that's what happened to me in my election. If it sounds good, that's what you're going to go with. You're going to question somebody's experience, somebody's long-term education experience, to someone that didn't have it, and you believe that, and you want to blame it on voters. You can't blame that. You have to blame it on the reality that they paint these pictures. Again, like they're trying to paint the picture of Dr. White is not qualified to be the superintendent. That narrative is starting early so people can buy into that narrative. We cannot let that happen.
Yeah, because you and I, OT and I, all of us were talking offline about media, how media portrays you. There's a whole article written about me that I didn't even know, and I'm not even referred to as a doctor in an education conversation. And my doctorate is education.
So let me just.
But what happened to the 36?
Let me just say this. And that's the mystery question. That's the elephant in the room. We got to remove the NDA. We got to push that to remove the NDA. If this was Attorney Jones, like he said, I couldn't hear him as well. But then they need to file that law. They need to file that that lawsuit to the district, asking the district to remove that NDA so they can, so that person can speak on what's happening to their
And
money.
let me be clear.
She's the only person know.
But let me be clear about the statement I made. That's why I made the statement about the interim being in the position she's in. Because if you hold the superintendent accountable to the $36 million, how do you separate her from that? So you put the former superintendent of the NDA, you buy her out, she leaves, but then her deputy becomes
Gets a pass.
I'm
gets a
not
pass.
understanding
Not
how
only, not only does she get a pass, here's the other thing.
But shouldn't she also know what happened to the $36 million?
The question is, what was her role as the deputy superintendent?
That was part of her job,
That's part
right?
of her job. So she knows it as much as anybody else knows where it is. And again, she has the answers, but again, she don't have an NDA.
Hashtag where is my children's money?
Yeah, and she doesn't have hashtag, she doesn't have an NDA.
Well, that's the reason I said it.
Yeah.
Only one person is under non-disclosure. So as the interim, is she not allowed to speak to the questions that are being asked about this money?
Yeah, and her contract doesn't
Because
have an NDA.
now we're trying to pivot to the $20 million between the city and the school board. Those are two
different
total.
entities.
We're not going to talk 20 million and act like we don't know about this 36 million.
Two entities.
And then where are the charter heavy hitters in this conversation? Because I'm sure they have some understanding of where are the Louisiana Charter School Association, where are the New Schools for New Orleans. All of these entities, I know they know where the $36 million is. That's why there's an orchestrated conversation happening about certain people not being able to be in this application
and
pool.
as important as it is, Doc, as important as education is, as part of the deficit that we're talking about, and these are entities that you just named that has an obligation.
Where's their comment on the $36 million?
Where are their responses? Where's their advocacy? Why are they not asking that question? Because you know why? Because their entity is controlled by other entities.
Well, I want the non-disclosure
Removed.
lifted so that we can understand where the $36 million is. And if I'm an applicant, I'm telling you right now, I'm asking that question because it's not fair for anybody to walk into a deficit and don't understand how they got there. And then it's going to be your job to try to right size the district in terms of this missing funding. And monies that come from the state and the federal government are not monies that you could just mismanage and not have an explanation for.
You know, the thing you say, Doc, is it got me thinking. There's a group called New Orleans United Front that you've been in front of and moderating.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm going to reach out to that amazing group because that's a project that we can definitely take on New Orleans United Front, where we want that NDA lifted. We want to also hold the district accountable, the school board members accountable in terms of asking our board members to, because whether she can speak, let's say whether she can speak or not, the district doesn't have an NDA. The board members don't have an NDA. The board can respond because the board it should be held accountable.
Well, no, they're wrapped up into the NDA as well.
They wrapped up into
Yes.
So the board itself,
It has
public
to be
board,
lifted. Yes.
put
It's between
themselves
the board
in
and the yes.
like we're not going to disclose
Yes.
the $36 million.
Yes.
Why? Something wrong with that picture.
Yes.
I think.
And another thing we need to be asking for is that the entire process of how we search for our superintendent is 100%
that's what
transparent.
the listening to.
That's the importance
That's
of,
what I think. That's when I was talking to Oliver about this before. I think this is why the public groups that stands for strong stuff like New Orleans United Front and other groups that really mean something to the community, that we need to start these listening tours, and the listening tours should be talking about the search of the superintendent.
I have a question.
We
OT.
really need to be doing that.
Yeah, go ahead, because we got.
I know you got to go. I'm going to ask you this question because maybe you have an ear with the clergy.
Yeah.
I watch the clergy stand behind the superintendent of the police when there was a certain narrative that was being built around in the aftermath of the terrorist attack, right? I want to know where they're standing in terms of the education of our children.
Wow.
Because if the clergy can come together and demand certain things for certain people, I also think that they should come together and demand the right people be put in place for the education outcomes of our children. Where is the clergy?
But before I answer, the other thing is this too.
And I'm talking directly to my pastor as well. Where is the clergy? But
not just the clergyman. That we have some great elected officials that these schools reside in their district that they represent. Not just where are the clergymen, where are the local representation of the district body that we elect that knows what they need for public education, they also need to be standing behind and putting out who they want to be the next superintendent. And we have a local person that has done the work, been on the ground, has done all that needs to be done in terms of the requirements that it meets, particularly the requirements that they already have with people who doesn't have it.
Well,
So
we got to go to break,
really
but I think there's a bigger question is where's the community?
Yes.
If people can rally around personalities, especially if they're not from our community, then why can't they rally around our children? Right. And so that is the ultimate question. The question for me was, especially someone I'm sitting between two doctors of education, people who spent their life either in the classroom or as administrators, I've learned a lot about, especially with the public piece we're dealing with now, the effort to make them one. And they actually, we haven't answered one question about one, and we're playing this blame game, a political game with another, without solving the first issue that was on the table. So hopefully at some point, hopefully you'll agree to continue having education discussions with us here. Yeah. We already have Dr. White, so that will always be a top priority here, but we look forward to continuing some education one-on-one conversations.
Yeah, we need to do that, Alfred. Because 1 hour is not long enough to discuss
we appreciate
the years of stuff that's happening in this city as relates to public education.
Right.
Where's my children's money?
Next, we have an African-American businessman, entrepreneur, the Spears Group, also one of the owners of Equity Media, and WBOK, talking about the Super Bowl and Super Bowl business, man. So often these major events have been a pass-through, and Mr. Spears will share his role with the Super Bowl and how more African Americans get a foothold in this multi-billion-dollar industry we have with special events in tourism. That and a whole lot more on WBOK, 12:30 a.m.
What New Orleans is talking about.
Whose station?
Our station.
Doggone right, it's our station, God. We'll be back.
New Orleans, are you ready? A fresh voice in the city is here, bringing you the beats, the culture, and the stories that matter. From local music and food to real talk on what's happening in the streets. We've got you covered. Stay tapped in. Follow us on all platforms at WBOK 1230 for the latest updates and exclusive content. Your city, your culture, your news. Don't just hear about it, be about it. Follow WBOK 1230 now.
Good morning. I'm Daryl Forges with WDSU News, and here's your headlines. The fight over school board funding takes center stage this morning. This comes after some New Orleans City Council members are enraged, saying the mayor's administration is holding up approved school board funding. Back in November, we told you the city of New Orleans was investing $20 million to help Orleans public schools with a budget deficit. But now council members tell us the city attorney and chief financial officer will not sign off on the deal they agreed upon, saying there wasn't one. The city sent out a statement, part of which read, quote, "Our administration, the mayor and CFO, will work with the administrators of the school board to secure a settlement that is also financially feasible for the city." All right, we're just days away from the big matchup between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. To kick things off, tonight fans are invited inside the Superdome to welcome the Eagles and the Chiefs. Also happening today, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem will be in New Orleans to meet with Governor Jeff Landry and the NOPD. The two will visit the Bourbon Street Memorial to recognize the victims of the New Year's terror attack and discuss safety measures for Super Bowl 59. Also, WDSU is proud to be the official broadcast partner of the New Orleans Super Bowl Host Committee Parade on Saturday. The parade starts at the corner of Esplanade Avenue and Decatur Street at 10 in the morning, and then goes through the French Quarter and down Decatur to Poydras Street, then goes right by Gallier Hall on St. Charles Avenue. As the official broadcast partner, WDSU will have crews live all along the route, giving you the exclusive access. If you can't make it out to the route, you can watch all the excitement right here on WDSU or website WDSU.com. We'll also bring all the fun through the very local app across the country. I'm Daryl Forges, and that's your headlines for WBOK. Have a great day.
NOLA Public Schools' main round enrollment for kindergarten through 12th grade is now open. With 73 schools available through the NOLA Public Schools Common Application Process, or NCAP, finding the right school fit for your family is easier than ever. List up to 12 choices to maximize your chances and apply by January 24th. We're all in, and we hope you are too. Apply today at enrollnolaps.com. That's enrollnolaps.com.
Hi, this is Arnie Filko. Let's elevate every Tuesday through Thursday from 6 to 7 o'clock p.m. as we discuss the community, the country, and the world, from politics to current events to sports. We look forward to your input and continuing the quality programming on your community station, WBOK. Join Carrie and I every Tuesday through Thursday, 6 to 7 o'clock p.m. on Elevated Conversations, the Arnie and Carrie Show. See you soon.
Visit DePaul's new Algiers Health Center at 2801 General de Gaulle Drive to receive primary and preventive care for both adults and children. Services also include behavioral health, imaging, and on-site pharmacy, vision, Medicaid enrollment assistance, and more. For appointments, visit DePaulCommunityHealthCenters.org or call 504-207-3060.
WBOK celebrates Black History Month, remembering Dorothy Mae Taylor, born August 10th, 1928, an educator, a politician in New Orleans, and the first African-American woman to be elected and to serve in the Louisiana House of Representatives.
What's before us today is discrimination. My questions are based on discrimination. That's before us today.
In 1992, Dorothy Mae Taylor authored an ordinance insisting that all Mardi Gras crews stop discriminating and institute an open admission policy for anyone seeking to join their organizations if they chose to use any city services to hold their parades. The reaction to this ordinance was swift and downright vicious.
Have you recommended any other members since you've been there 40 years?
I'm sure I have, yes.
Have any of them been blacks, Jews, or Italians?
I don't know if any have been Italians or not. I don't know that question.
Okay. What about blacks? What about blacks?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Even when it wasn't popular, Dorothy Mae Taylor stood strong to desegregate Mardi Gras.
Black History. WBOK 1230 AM. Celebrating Black History Month. Making a difference in the community. WBOK 1230 AM. Good morning, wake up. The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK 1230 AM.
We are back. Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. I am your host, Dr. Ashanta Wyatt, and my co-host, Oliver O.T. Thomas, had to step out. He had some important business to deal with, and I want to once again say thank you to our guest, Dr. Eric Jones, and to all of the callers and listeners of WBOK for engaging in the conversation. But right now in studio, we have with us one of the partners in WBOK, the owner of the Spears Group, Mr. Cleveland Spears. Welcome to the Good Morning Show. Good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Wyatt. Good to be with you.
Listen, it's always good to talk to you. I had a really good conversation and interview with your wife a couple weeks back, so it's good to have you. There is some conversations going on about your involvement with the Super Bowl, and that's what you're here to talk about. So what does that role look like for you? What are your responsibilities?
Yeah, well, one, I'm always happy to be here at WBOK. Obviously, I'm one of the partners here with my good friends Troy and Wendell and Jeff, and love coming to talk. And, well, I think I like the setup, but I don't know if people are really too concerned about our involvement in it. We have a very small part to play in it, but we are fortunate to once again have an opportunity to work with a major event coming through our city. Our company's had the privilege of working with 2 NBA All-Star games over the years. And so this cycle here, the NFL was looking for a local firm to support their local, regional, and multicultural media efforts Obviously, Spears Group is a PR firm. Is the business we're in. And so we went through a competitive process saying, hey, we've worked with major sporting events before. We've been in this city doing business for 16 years. We think we could be a great partner to make sure local and regional really means kind of Gulf South media and multicultural media nationally has great access to the Super Bowl and all of the Super Bowl events and credentialing and access to spokespersons and stories and things like that to make sure that you're getting that multicultural perspective through the media, as well as that the host city media, local journalists that we work with every day, have access to the NFL and to Super Bowl.
Well, listen, you called it a small role, but listen, I'm going to be maybe one of the first, maybe not, to say congratulations because small is still big nonetheless. To be associated with an event such as the Super Bowl, that is huge. So, let's not make us small. It's a big deal. There's a call online when we want to take it before we jump into more conversation. Good morning, John. Welcome to the Good Morning Show. You're on with Cleveland Spears and Dr. Ashanta Wyatt. John, are you there? He's not there. Guess he changed his mind. But listen, so what are some of the activities and initiatives that the Spears Group particularly is involved in as it relates to the Super Bowl?
Yeah, so we're working, obviously, it's not Super Bowl related, but it's timing. We had the privilege of working with our airport on last week.
I was there. It was nice.
The rebrand, the rollout of the new brand for the airport, that was a project that's been going on for quite some time. And, in collaboration with our partners and with the airport, the decision was made to kind of hold that announcement to Super Bowl where there's a lot of national media in town. So that was kind of our first big deliverable kind of leading in the Super Bowl. And then I worked kind of directly with the NFL. Well, we have been working with them for a couple months now, really from a PR and media perspective. So obviously, Super Bowl experience, that's a big deal for Super Bowl week. That's a great opportunity for locals. So we are leading the PR and media efforts around that. And then there's this thing kind of on-site media operations, right? So when you host an event like Super Bowl experience, NFL honors, NFL community events, there's a lot of media that comes to those events, right? And so our team is kind of leading that process of credentialing media, checking in media, escorting media, providing media with media kits, answering questions, capturing quotes, capturing spokespersons for media to interview, and just really facilitating in collaboration with the NFL, facilitating the media operations of it to make sure media has access, quotes, stories, photos, video, media kits, things like that. So that's kind of what our team is doing in that capacity.
So everybody knows New Orleans is known for its culture, right? We know that. How does the Spears Group incorporate local culture and the unique spirit of New Orleans into all of the activities surrounding the Super Bowl?
I think that's a great question. I spoke to it before, really local and multicultural media access. This station, WBOK, has had great access. We've been invited to some of the events leading up to Super Bowl. We've had great credentials. There was the event last night at St. Louis Cathedral, the lighting ceremony. So we've made sure that that multicultural media, whether it's WBOK, whether it's Verite News, whether it's some of our Hispanic outlets, whether it's African American outlets like Essence, has kind of access to the behind the scenes things of the Super Bowl. There's a tiering system in media, right? You got your ESPNs and your Fox Sports and your CNN.
The hierarchy,
like
right? We get it.
But our role is to make sure that folks like WBOK is sitting up on the media riser.
We're so grateful for that.
Verite and folks like that. So that's how we've been making sure that we're kind of infusing our local culture. There was a press conference, I should say media avail, a couple weeks ago with retired Saints Roman Harper. He's a Super Bowl ambassador. I think only 4 or 5 members of media was invited. WBOK was invited. And so obviously that's how we're kind of making sure that local folks have access and we can kind of tell those unique stories from a New Orleans perspective.
Absolutely. So listen, before I go back to the plethora of questions we have for you, there's a thank you in the chat, several thank yous. So I'm going to read one of them for you. But it says, thank you, Mr. Spears, for your generosity in giving free tickets to the Fried Chicken Fest for the seasoned citizens. So I think those are our seasoned New Orleanians want to say thank you for providing that they enjoy the fest every year. So they say you're always so nice and kind. So I wanted to make certain I could hand you that flower while you right here.
Well, thank you. We love to do it. Obviously, that's a very community-centered festival, so we love making sure
which is a great segue to the community impact questions that we have for you. And so when we're talking about that culture of New Orleans, how does the involvement in such a high-profile event help to highlight or amplify the work of your organization in terms of the New Orleans area? The Spears Group, as a PR firm, I don't think there's anything that happens in this city that the Spears Group hasn't had a hand in, a foot in, or something. So shout out to you for being so involved. But what does that look like for you?
Yeah, obviously, we're grateful for what we've been able to do and be a part of. But the reason I'm here talking about it, or the reason I was on a panel discussion talking about it, because it's really about making sure local and minority businesses have access. And I think we're just kind of like an example of that. But I think when you look at something like Super Bowl, it's how many people are getting the opportunity to do work.
Yes.
And I think there's a decent amount of people getting work and having the opportunity to work. But the reality is, whatever the reporting is on this after it, there's always an opportunity for more. Like, how can we make sure more and more and more local and minority firms have an opportunity to work on major events like this? And so for me, it's like when we get an opportunity to be a part of these things, is we want to make sure we show up and do a good job to make it easier for the next person of color that's pitching work and trying to get opportunities with large events like this.
Well, listen, the event at the airport was really, really nice. The sensations were there. The mayor spoke. I think Mr. Bagneris had a birthday that he was celebrating there. Studio Mill did a really, really nice fleur-de-lis. I mean, it was really, really nice. But, I mean, you don't expect anything less from the city of New Orleans but to be hospitable. So shout out to you for helping to put that together as well. But can you speak to any other community outreach or charitable efforts tied to the Super Bowl engagement for this year?
Yeah, so obviously there's the big granting program where I think the NFL and the Saints made a community granting pledge. I haven't been super close to it, but I think something like $10 million will be given out to local charitable organizations as part of this effort. There's going to be kind of community events across the state and across the region. There's the economic impact of local businesses that have opportunity to transact business with the NFL and with the Super Bowl. This is not something I really like to get too hot and heavy into because I don't know if it benefits our people that much, but obviously there is the kind of just statewide economic impact and like tax dollars flowing into the state coffers. I'm kind of lukewarm on that one, but it happens, it exists, so I guess it's a benefit. I don't know how much of that trickles down to us. But I just think there's so many different kind of intersection opportunities for folks. There's also like something like the Super Bowl experience, right? The ability to kind of bring local kids to events like that. Most New Orleanians, about most of them, like 99.9% of us are not going to the Super Bowl next Sunday. But the ability to kind of go in, I'm looking forward to bringing my son there next weekend. I think the tickets to that are like very, very affordable. They've even been like local discount days. There's thousands of free tickets to Super Bowl experience out there. So I think just also having the opportunity to let local kids and local families experience things like Super Bowl, experience the free festival that's going to be out on Waldenberg Park next weekend, and all of the various kind of experiences and activations. There's value in showing kids new experiences and making sure we can kind of spread a little joy to kids.
Absolutely. If you're just joining us, we're in conversation with Cleveland Spears, owner of the Spears Group, also one of the partners in Equity Media. We're excited to have him here in studio talking about the Spears Group's involvement in the Super Bowl. So in addition to your team, who are all the other key partners or stakeholders as it relates to the work around making the successful Super Bowl week?
Man, the reality is too many to name.
It's
so many folks where, I know a number of local minority-owned and women-owned businesses that are having big roles in it. One of my good friends and colleagues, he used to be a part of our team at Spears Group, and he spent out and started his own company. We still work together, but his company got the contract to produce the media party that's happening tomorrow night. Huge production that he's leading, and he's brought in a number of partners to work with him on that. And that's Terrence King with his company called the TAC Group. They are a production company. Another good friend of mine, the J Impact, and Tina Dixon. She's doing work around town. There's a lot of businesses that are having the opportunity to do something, whether it's catering, transportation, photography, video. There's so many folks involved, and that's the benefit of an event like Super Bowl. But just to be clear, there can always be more. We need to, over time, that percentage of local and minority participation needs to continue to grow.
So, we've hosted Super Bowls before. What do you think makes this place so uniquely special that we continue to get the opportunity to host again and again?
Yeah, well, one thing, this is our 11th Super Bowl, so we're tied for the most, I think, with Miami. And I think there's certain just inherent things that make it ideal, right? The walkability of it, the very mild winter climate. Super Bowl is always going to be in February, and shy of what we had 2 weeks ago, there's like 0% chance of snow here. So I think you got some just infrastructure things that make New Orleans an ideal destination. We're a city that's kind of built to host. We have this concentration of hotel rooms, this major convention center. So we have some infrastructure that has allowed us to kind of continue to win Super Bowls. But to be clear, we can't mess it up. We got to make sure that the city is continuing to put its best foot forward. The city looks right and prepared and ready. So I know it's been a race to the finish line to get the city ready. But we got to make sure that when the international media and folks arrive in town, that we got our act together, and we got to make sure we don't mess it up.
Well, I mean, you being a part of it, it feels comforting knowing, because I know the level of work ethic you have in the productions that you put on. I used to love going to the all white, and I was going to ask, is that going to come back? Because I used to bring my mom to it. She was always my date to it, and it was a very nice event. Then when y'all had Dougie Fresh, you just did it for me. Yep. That just did it for me. So, I mean, can we have the exclusive on that? Will it ever find its way back to New Orleans?
Yeah, so the event you're referring to, Dinner on Blanc,
yes.
The all-white dinner party we did for a period of about 7 years, 2012 to 2019. We have no plans to return that event at this time. That is a franchise, or I should say licensed event. So
because it's happening in different parts of,
And so I think there's some folks who are kind of looking at relicensing that event for the city of New Orleans and bringing one back here. And the folks that are considering it, I've been very helpful and supportive of them to do that, because I think it should come back. But it's not something that's on the horizon for us.
Oh, listen, well, at least you're involved in some capacity, right? So how do you envision the role of the Spears Group in New Orleans evolving with future Super Bowl events or other major national celebrations? Because we're not just hosting the Super Bowl. We host a lot of big-time events. I mean, even the Taylor Swift concert, that was huge. So how do you envision our role there in terms of future national events?
We want to continue to be a premier Black-owned company in the city of New Orleans. And if you are coming to New Orleans and you believe in kind of making sure everyone has an opportunity, it's kind of like we have to engage the Spears Group, and also we have to engage great companies like the Spears Group when we come to the city. So whether it's Super Bowl, whether it's NBA All-Star, whether it's Sugar Bowl, our company wants to be a part. Obviously, and we also have a unique mix of services, right? We're a production company and a PR and marketing company. And so when you bring a major event to town, you usually need both. And so we feel like we've been kind of well positioned to work on these. I have a role in these large productions and these large events. But again, we're grateful for it. But as I sit here at WBOK, one of the kind of oldest Black-owned radio stations in this country, I just want to say, like, we're grateful for our role in it, but we want to be emblematic of what it's like to just make sure you're hiring and transacting business with Black people when you come into their city. We're grateful for it, but we want to show up, do a good job, and say, okay, that was easy. Let's look for more Black-owned companies or minority-owned companies like Spears Group. That's really our role. And that's what I tell my team on a regular basis. Like, look, we got to show up and do right, because we're the only ones, and by we, I mean Black people, that if we mess up, it messes it up for the next 10 Black companies coming behind us.
I'm glad you have that thought process in your mind, because we don't get a second chance to make a first impression.
Now, other groups, that was just John.
Yes.
Everybody else is that look like John is just fine. But we represent all of us.
I'm glad you have that understanding in mind, and that's why we always have to put our best foot forward and share our best selves so that other folk can get that opportunity. But we have to go to break. But when we come back, we're going to continue the conversation with Cleveland Spears, owner of the Spears Group, talking about his organization's involvement in the Super Bowl. And if you want to join the conversation, the number here is 504-582-9422. Stay with us on the other side of the break. This is WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about all day.
This is your news update for WBOK 1230 AM from WDSU. For all your news and weather, watch WDSU News, New Orleans' leader in live, local, late-breaking news. Today at noon and 4 p.m.
Patchy fog for the morning commute, then mostly sunny and dry with highs in the mid to upper 70s. Clouds increase this afternoon and overnight with another chance for fog. Lows in the mid 50s to low 60s. Tuesday is mostly cloudy but warm. Highs in the mid to upper 70s. A few 80s are possible. Multiple mornings with fog are possible this week, along with a midweek shower or two. From the WDSU First Warning Weather Center, I'm Raven Richard.
Are you passionate about community safety and police accountability? Tune in to The Monitor's Mic, where we talk about oversight, policing, and you. Hosted by the Office of Independent Police Monitor, we're here to shine a light on policing issues that matter, from real-time policing updates to in-depth interviews. Get the facts and stay informed. We're breaking down complex issues, highlighting community voices, and holding people behind the badge accountable. Join us for an informative hour every Friday at noon on WBOK. Your city, your police, your show. The Monitor's Mic.
The New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation is the nonprofit organization that owns the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival presented by Shell. With the funds generated from Jazz Fest, the foundation invests in Louisiana companies through economic development, cultural enrichment, and free educational programs. To learn more about what the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation does, please visit www.jazzandheritage.org.
Welcome to Liberty Bank and Trust, where your financial journey transforms communities. Since 1972, our customized banking solutions power your dreams and fuel your community growth. Every dollar you invest with us circles back to empower more people, ensuring opportunities for generations. Join us at Liberty Bank. Together, we empower possibility. Visit libertybank.net to start banking with purpose. Liberty Bank, there's freedom here.
Hey everybody, it's Kimber White Dupree.
And it's Graylin Bryant Banks from the Front Porch. We're coming up next.
Good morning. Wake up. The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK 1230 AM.
We are back. Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. If you're just joining us, we're in conversation with one of the partners in Equity Media, Mr. Cleveland Spears, owner of the Spears Group, talking to and about his involvement in Super Bowl 59 and how important it is for not only the culture of New Orleans to be represented, but the black businesses in our community to also have some sort of representation there. Like, what does that feel like? Does that feel like heavy as the head?
I think... Yes,
yes.
But I don't know that I view it as heavy. It's just like it's just part of the way we approach our business. It's just part of our culture now. Like, we've been in business 16 years, and we've always had this perspective. Once the business started doing well and started getting opportunities, we had this perspective that, look, we have to show up and show well for black businesses, and we've had that view for quite some time now. So now it's just normal. It's just
I appreciate that vision, because you're not only thinking about you and how you can grow as a business, but you're thinking about the businesses that get opportunities because of how you grow as a business. And speaking to the business and the strategy, what has been the most important strategic initiative around Super Bowl for the Spears Group in terms of business growth and networking opportunities?
One, I think when you get an opportunity like being hired by the NFL for the Super Bowl,
yes,
that's a pretty big, feather in your cap there. And so we looked at the Super Bowl opportunity. Our staff agreed that we wanted it. We wanted to win it. And so it was like, whatever the contract value is and the compensation is, we're going to take it, because the setup of that, of what that could mean for a business is huge. So really, when there's big opportunities like a Super Bowl, Black businesses and Black CEOs understand that, like, what this can do to set up your company after the Super Bowl is so huge. So making sure you're just kind of, I was at a panel discussion with the NFL Source program, which is the Black business program. And there was a lot of commentary around small businesses looking at the NFL as like the goose that laid the golden egg, and like throwing it pretty astronomical prices and proposals out and budgets out, and really price themselves out of the opportunity.
Right.
And I learned that in conversation with other folks at this event, that the NFL was single out of that. Things were priced 3, 4, 5 times what it should have been.
Like the hotel rooms here right now?
Well, yes, like the hotel rooms here. Yes. And so they saw that folks will price themselves out of opportunity. And so the speaker from the platform on the panel was almost saying, like, the opportunity to have the NFL in your portfolio after is worth its weight in gold. So don't come to the table and price yourself out of an opportunity, and then you miss that opportunity. You miss the work, you miss the revenue from it, but you also miss adding that to your portfolio.
But how do you not price yourself out, but you also not lowball yourself to where it's not even? Because I guess what you're saying is putting that NFL on your resume, but it's still business. Yep. So how do you balance that?
We price it like we price every other client in our company. Good. So this idea of like we're gonna like run it up
just because it's the NFL.
Just because it's the NFL. Because if you're in business, you know how to price your good or your service.
Right.
So price the NFL like you would price everything else. And if you want to put a little premium on it because maybe labor's going to be more expensive during that period of time or things like that, maybe like 10, 15%, but not like 400%.
Yeah.
And so that's how we did it. We stepped to it like price it like we priced everything else.
So with that question, because I mean, this is maybe you can help me out. So how is it okay for the hotel industries to do us that? Because a room that will generally go $150 a night, even the best ones that go $400, $500, $600 a night, these things like $1,500, $1,600 a night. So is that like that's what you're thinking of in terms of that? Like the surge is up, so they could go up.
What I would say is that I'm here speaking about like kind of how Black businesses approach it, right? And we all know, living in this country, that the rules are not all the same. So
I don't know if you knew that's where I wanted you to go, but like I want people to understand that sometimes we can't do what we see our counterparts do. We have to make certain that we have a seat at the table, and we make certain that we take the seat so that somebody else can also come behind us and take a seat. That's where I was going with that, because sometimes we take our cues from entities that don't necessarily play by the same rules as us.
Absolutely.
And we don't want to take the hit. And you're watching them like, well, why
they get to do it?
They're not like us, right? So that's where I wanted you to go with that. Now, I'm just going to be a little playful question here, because, I mean, you've done your big one and making certain that all of the major questions are answered. And I want to, again, say thank you for having a seat at the table and representing us in a way that allows other folk to have a seat at the table. But who you got for the game? Who you rolling with? Because I mean, the Saints not in it, so I mean, we could have this conversation. We could go Philly, and we could go Jalen Hurts, or we could go KC, and we could go Mahomes. Who you going with?
I am rooting for Philly, like all the way, and for so many reasons. Should I
Let's talk about it, because I'm gonna tell you my opinion as well. Come on, let's talk about it.
It might be the same.
It is the same.
Look, I'm a Jalen Hurts fan.
Yes.
Anyone who's a follower of sports, which I am, you look at Jalen Hurts' story of like perseverance.
Yes.
He was at Alabama, got benched in the national championship game, went back the next year, didn't get to play, got benched for Tua, transferred to another school, went there, started, wasn't a big draft pick. I think came out maybe in the third round. Didn't even get drafted to be a starter, and what he's done over his career. So one, I'm a Jalen Hurts fan, and just that story of like perseverance and not being like, I got benched in the national championship game, my career is over. Then you got Saquon Barkley, like I just
he's unreal. He's doing things on the football field. The way he plants and turns, that's an injury for most people. That speaks to his training, his strength. I saw that dude hurdle over somebody in the game, and I was like, he's just a freak of nature. So and talking about Jalen Hurts as well, like that story leads to the demise of so many athletes, because when you get that first letdown, I mean, they handled him so bad in Alabama. The fans, I mean, and to just come back. And what I love about that young man, his entire team He's surrounded by black women.
Come on.
So you already know how I
his
feel about
agent,
everybody.
his fiance, his mama.
He is surrounded by black women. And so I've always wanted since his days at Alabama, I've wanted him to win.
Yep.
And he came close before.
Mm-hmm.
This is a rematch.
Yep.
And so hopefully the all of the parts are in place.
I'm absolutely going for
because
Jalen
I
Hurts.
absolutely don't want to see another Swifty Bowl. I really just don't. I mean, I just don't. I just don't.
Yeah.
And I mean nothing against Mahomes. I think he's great. Kelsey, great. But I think it's Jalen's year, and I'm hoping and praying that Saquon is the piece.
Yep.
That was missing the last go round that we could put in there and we could say
that's a big piece to add.
That's a big piece. The dude, listen, it's unreal what he's doing on the football field. Yeah. Now let me ask you another question since you follow sports, because we want Philly to win, right? We here.
I'm here for Philly.
We here for Philly. But I got a problem with the stats of how they do the NFL, right?
Okay.
So help me understand, when the quarterback throws the ball to you and you get the ball, why is it every yard you run after that is attributed to the quarterback? I have a problem with that. Like, why? Like, if you throw for 30 yards, that's 30 yards. But if the receiver run for another 60, why you get 90 on your stat sheet?
That's
no, I'm just,
I did not see that question
like,
coming, listeners. That was a hot one. We call it a hot track in my office. You know what? I think it's very generous to the quarterbacks, make the numbers seem like big numbers sell. So if the NFL is a major branding and media and marketing organization, and so reading that, oh my God, this person threw for 400 yards.
When 250 of them was on the ground by the receiver.
It sounds more exciting. So as a PR person, I'm always looking for big numbers to put in the headlines. So I think that's why. I think it's a marketing and media thing.
But also, too, I'm an athlete, so I just think in terms of what folk were thinking at the time. We've not really seen before this like the Michael Vicks of the world, right? Mm-hmm. We've not seen quarterbacks come out the pocket and do all of this running. So I guess that's how they accommodated, that, because you have pocket people, they ain't going too far past the line of scrimmage, all that kind of stuff, right? But now we got the Michael Vicks, we got Lamar, we got Jalen, we got Mahomes. They running now. They look like running backs, and they built like tight ends now. So it's like,
Jalen.
Yes. Oh. So I just wanted to have a little fun with the last couple of questions, but look, thank you for what you do. I'm just echoing the sentiments of the folk in our chat, but thank you for being a part of Equity Media. I think WBOK now more than ever is so important. What we have our government like taking away the NPR and PBS and all of these other entities where we can get unbiased news, and I think having a black perspective and a black voice in this time is so needed. Absolutely. So thank you for what you're doing in terms of Equity Media and with the Spears Group. And thank you for what you're doing to represent us well in the Super Bowl, so that you have the seat now, but maybe 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 years from now, there's another black boy that could sit here and talk about his PR and production firm because he's had Cleveland Spears to lead the way. So thank you, sir.
Thank you.
For what
thank
you
you
do.
so much
Listen,
for having me.
Y'all stay tuned. Up next for the Front Porch with Greeley and Kimbo. We want to say thank you again to Eric Doc Jones for joining us this morning, and a big, huge shout out to Cleveland Spears for spending part of his morning with us. We know he's busy, but as far as WBOK and the Good Morning Show, we're going to see y'all tomorrow. Have a good one.